I am so excited to have my guest on today. Her name is Layne Burkette, and she is the owner and creator of Life Balance. She is a professional somatic healer. Layne, thank you so much for joining the podcast. I'm so excited to deep dive into the world of somatic healing.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here. This is my passion, this is my heart, and I'm so excited to share it with you.
Well, thank you for joining me. And let's first jump into what somatic healing actually is for those of the viewers that maybe haven't heard about somatic healing and the types of people that somatic healing could heal.
Absolutely. So, somatic healing is a body-based approach to healing. So, it recognizes that our experience, such as stress, trauma, life transitions, they don't just live in our thoughts. They actually live in our bodies and our nervous systems. So, instead of just like talking about what we've been through, somatic healing actually helps us gently tune into what's happening in our body. So, those physical sensations like your breath, that tension, that like tightness or constriction you feel, tuning into movement, tuning into your posture. And when we work with the body, that we can actually help the nervous system to feel safer, more grounded, more regulated, more supported, which then allows all of our emotional experience to process more fully. We have more clarity as a result. And it's not just about like reliving that past or pushing through that discomfort. It's actually about creating enough capacity and safety in the body so that healing can happen from the inside out. And these are very simple tools that literally everyone can do. So when you ask like who is this good for? My response would be absolutely everyone. I work with very young kids. My youngest right now is 7 and my oldest is 87. And I it's really applicable to everyone. And it's just simple. It's breath work, it's movement, it's grounding, it's awareness, it's tapping. So that somatic healing process just really helps people to feel calmer, more connected, and more resilient. And that applies to all life. So it applies to work, it applies to parenting, it applies to everyday life. So,
Wow, that's amazing. And what spoke to you so deeply to make you want to get into this work? Was
yeah.
it your childhood? Was it an experience, or are you just very much of an empathic person and healer at heart, and this was just calling to you?
Yeah, great question. I decided I wanted to help people early on in my career and my childhood. I always knew I was a helper. And then when I started doing talk therapy, I kind of realized, wait a second, I can talk and I can teach people how to cognitively prepare to handle anxiety, depression, grief, trauma. I can teach them and they're educated. They know exactly what to do in that moment. But when the moment comes, they're not doing it. And
Mm.
so there was this gap. And I realized their body's not caught up with that. And as a result, when we slow down and we really notice what's happening inside of my body and helping to my body to feel safe, then the healing can happen. Then it can be integrated because my body needs to catch up to that. And so I was doing talk therapy for years and I just was noticing that gap. And I do experience my own anxiety as well. And I was noticing when I'd go to yoga, I'd feel better. When I go for a run, I'd feel better. When I would stretch, when I would do some of these movement-based things, when I would sing. If you're singing in the car, blazing the music with the windows down, you like feel on top of the world, right? It's because you're using all those skills, you're vibrating, you're doing all of that. It's body based. And
Right.
so when we can integrate both of those, that's when the healing can really happen. And so I decided to just start integrating both of them, yoga and movement and this somatic healing piece with all the nervous system, in addition to the talk therapy. There's absolutely a place to integrate all of it together. So I do a combination of integrating all of it, and that's where I've seen really the best results with all the people I'm working with and with myself. I do this every day. Anything I teach you or talk about today, I have applied to my own life, to my own family, to everyone I work with.
Okay, that's amazing. And I love what you say about, talk therapy is great. We all have our go-to therapists. We all, especially I think especially as women, we like to get things out.
Mhm.
I know for me personally, that's one of the reasons why I so badly wanted to do a podcast is that communication, that venting, that getting it off our chest. There is a release with that. But at
Mhm.
the end of the day, like you said when you and I spoke off camera, there's a difference between talk therapy and releasing your feelings and getting it out, but actually doing work internally. And talk
Mhm.
therapy isn't really targeting your nervous system, so to speak, and that's where somatic healing comes into play. Is that correct?
Yes, 100%. And sometimes that talk therapy, like you said, it is a beautiful release for you.
Mhm.
And that happens. It still may be a little bit residual in your body as well. And sometimes for other people, the opposite can happen. Sometimes they can be talking about something and it can trigger them. If their body doesn't feel safe enough, then unfortunately that can lead you down other paths of increased trauma or increased dysregulation. Most people have a very attuned therapist that will catch that and will be able to help you and help, work through that. However, just really integrating both is a beautiful healing modality that if that appeals to you, I would encourage you definitely like try it, step into it, try some of these techniques.
Now, I know in EMDR, because I've done EMDR, I did EMDR for 2 years post divorce. I would say that it definitely helped. It was definitely not the end all be all, but it
Yeah.
helped me tap back into my traumas. Um,
Mhm.
During EMDR, they do tapping. Would you
Mhm.
suggest that the tapping that's in EMDR is connected to the type of tapping you do in somatic? How is that different?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, tapping in general, what you're doing is you're tapping into your energy systems and your energy points. And so you're moving and shifting energy. So, EMDR, you're usually going side to side, and then they're also moving, across your visual field. So, they're combining the cognitive, or excuse me, the occipital lobe with the vision, and then they're also combining that bilateral side to side across your brain. And so that's great. Tapping, when I talk about tapping, I'm doing more of the emotional freedom technique. And what that is you can tap here. You can do a setup statement and say, even though I'm feeling really stressed or overwhelmed, I know I can be compassionate to my body. And then you tap through these points throughout your body, throughout your face, and then your collarbone, underneath the arms, and then back up on top of the head. And what that does is it's a rhythmic and structured tapping sequence that taps into all these different energy centers and helps move that energy. For a lot of people, they feel a lot calmer. They feel releases from that. Some people love to do the tapping. I coordinate it usually with affirmations just to help move that energy, and it's rewiring your neural pathways. So when you're saying something positive while you're tapping, you're actually rewiring what's happening inside of your brain. Because everything that was possibly wired in a way that maybe you don't like or you don't enjoy as much can be healed and rewired in a different way that's more appealing to you and healthier for you. That's the beautiful part of our bodies. And that's why somatics does work so well because it can literally tap into changing those neural pathways.
Now, trauma is something with certain people that either happens in a short amount of time or a lifespan.
Mhm.
Somatic healing, what have you seen in regards to women that come out of very high conflict divorces, very abusive marriages? I say abuse, it's a term that has many different meanings. It's very multi-layered. But to any woman that's coming out of years long abuse, somatic healing is going to take a certain amount of time, I would assume, for people to feel less triggered, to feel less anxious. What is the time frame in which you notice somatic healing starting to really make changes in someone's day to day that has experienced very long term trauma?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I just, my heart goes out because that really resonates with me. The people that have suffered for a long time, it's in their body. And a lot of what you're talking about, divorce, separation, these transitions, this long period of uncertainty, that creates this cumulative trauma and stress in our nervous systems. And divorce and separation, I don't think that I don't consider them like just an emotional or a legal or a relational event. It's a nervous system event. It's a full body nervous system event. And even when a decision is right or like all the proper steps are taken, the body still experiences that loss of safety, that loss of predictability, and there's a loss of identity that occurs that has to be rebuilt. So, somatic healing, what's beautiful about it, you're going to notice something within the first time you do it. You're going to notice a shift, a change. And then, after you practice it consistently, not like in little spurts, but consistently every single day, even if it's just 1 or 2 minutes, you're going to notice something within a week or two. Immediately, it's going to start to happen for you. And then over a course of a month, you're going to start to feel even more and more, and then it's going to regulate. I choose about a 4 month program as my sweet spot for people because I find that they kind of learn and then there's a little bit of that resistance and like, just like with all therapy, there's a little bit of like challenges, barriers, real life creeps in. Oh, how do I do this every single day? And then they work through that and then they really feel this motivation of, oh, geez, when I don't do this, wow, can I feel the contrast? If I skip my routine or I skip doing this throughout my day, I feel it. So I would say, like, giving yourself a couple of months is a really good sweet spot. That being said, you'd feel something right away. If I gave you a routine today and I said, do this and check back with me in a week, you'd feel something. You'd feel some sort of shifting within you.
Wow, that's really special.
It's really nice.
Brain spotting.
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk about it. You and I discussed it off camera, and I'm so interested in it. And it's something that I'm gonna start incorporating into my day to day. So, brain spotting. What is
Yeah.
it? How does it work? I'm sure a lot of people that are not in, the somatic world don't know what that means. So let's break it down and educate them on it.
Yeah, great. So brain spotting was developed by David Grand, and he was actually working with an Olympic or an elite ice skater. And he was doing EMDR with her, and he noticed that while he was doing it, she stopped and she was looking at one particular spot, and they were talking about her doing a skill. And so he held his finger in that spot, and then she like focused in on it. And then she felt and noticed a change. And then she went and she could do that skill. So he realized that where you look affects how you feel.
Mm.
And brain spotting then, it accesses where the emotions live in the body and the brain. And it's especially helpful for trauma, for grief. I've used it for anxiety for people, identity transitions. I use it with very young kids and I use it with older people. So the idea is, if this is like your little picture of your brain, talk therapy usually is the parietal lobe. It's right in the front here, excuse me, the frontal lobe. And that's where you're just continuing to talk, which is very, very helpful for people. Brain spotting goes a little bit into the occipital lobe because that's where you're seeing, and then we're able to go deep down into the brainstem. And so it's accessing deeper held beliefs and deeper held traumas and deeper somatic experiences. And then you just use a pointer and I find your visual spot, that activation spot or that resource spot, depending on what we're working on, and you just focus in on it. And as a result, your body and your brain are able to complete that stress response that may have been keeping you stuck or keeping you held in that area. And it just allows processing without having to explain. Like you could not talk even during it. You could say, I really
Wow.
want to work on this trauma that I had with my divorce. You don't have to say anything the entire time. You can just focus in on that, and then I'll help you to process through that.
Wow, that's amazing.
It's really neat.
That's really neat. Yeah, and I've shared my own personal journey with you, and I thought personally talk therapy was the end all be all, and it has helped me. I definitely think it's better than nothing. But at the end of the day, you really do need to work on traumas at a much deeper cellular, like you said, nervous system level.
Yeah.
And I have been dealing with a lot of vagus nerve issues.
Mm.
I've been dealing with a lot of like autoimmune stuff. And I would say, after going through this journey, this health journey that I've been on the last 2 to 3 months, a lot of it is connected to trauma. And a
Yeah.
lot of it is connected to stress that I didn't even know I'm still storing within my nervous system.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so, meeting you and talking to you and being educated on all these amazing different options for women that I don't think we know about, unless you really educate yourself and you really deep dive into, ways in which of dealing with traumas and being open and willing to work through it, right?
Yes.
And being
Yeah.
open to the idea of somatic healing or meditation or breath work. I just think we need to really like broaden our horizons because there's so many amazing opportunities for us now available at our fingertips to heal ourselves from the inside and out.
Yes. And healing doesn't happen in a straight line, and
Right.
it doesn't happen the same for everyone. So being open to these different modalities is really healing. And even there's so much even beyond what I teach and what I do. There's sound healing. There's different
Energy.
levels of spiritual healing. There's all
Right.
these different levels that are like what you're speaking to. It just depends on like what calls to you, what you need, and trying different things to find what really works the best for you and your body. And
Hmm.
I think sometimes we just forget we do have a body and we do have a nervous system and it is affected by life events. And just like if we're not tending to it, like when we take care of our body, when we want to get healthy, we start working out, we watch what we're eating, things like that. What are we doing for our nervous system? Because that's running the show at sometimes when fight flight or freeze happens. What happens is you're outside of that window of tolerance and you're responding the way you're supposed to, but then
Right.
we quick try to shut it down or we distract or we do something else. Your body's just trying to protect you. So when we like lean into that, like what does my body actually need? I ask myself that every single morning. I put my hand on my heart and I say, I love you to myself first thing. And then I just gently go inward and I just ask, like, what am I feeling? What do I need today? And it might be a warm cup of tea. It might be, I need to move. I need to go lift weights. I need to tap. I need to journal. I need to listen to calming music. But the goal is I have a body, I have a nervous system, and I need to tend to it just like I tend to my children, just like I tend to my job. I need to tend to it. And sometimes I think that's just forgotten because our culture, we get so busy. We just run from thing to thing, and we're rewarded for doing that. So
Right.
it's kind of a cycle.
It is. It really is, and I couldn't agree with you more, Lane. And I think something too that is very much a societal narrative is when a mother tends to herself, puts time
Yeah.
in herself, whether she's married or she's divorced or she's raising a child on her own, it really doesn't matter what it looks like. But at the end of the day, I just feel like the societal narrative of a woman caring for herself, whether it be, aesthetically or internally, is quote unquote selfish. And
Hmm.
that's something that I'm willing to sit down and talk about all day long because moms at the end of the day are one of the most imperative connections to a child. And I'm
Yeah.
sure there's going to be a lot of dads that are going to debate that with me, and that's fine. But at the end of the day, we are more of the caretakers. We are more of the ones that step up when necessary. I'm sure there's a very small majority of single dads that do that. But as a woman, I just can't stand that societal narrative that if we take care of ourselves and we go inward and we stay in tune with what our bodies need, that is something that's a selfish act.
Yes, yes. Oh, I agree. And I think that when we actually slow down and we take care of ourselves, we get to co-regulate. So when we're taking care of ourselves and I'm calm, my one thing I love to say is my calm is their calm. When I'm calm, it ripples out to my children and they feel it and they sense it. When I'm, excited and I'm going, going, going and I'm stressed and I'm tense and I'm rushed, they feel that. They can feel and sense my energy. And so it is so important. And it's important, I agree with you, for fathers as well. It's important for really everyone because you feel someone else's energy very acutely just by being with them. And when we realize that we have that and